Commander Lyra Vall stood on the bridge of the Stardust, her gaze fixed on the swirling nebula ahead. The Krillian patrol ship hummed quietly as it navigated through the uncharted sector, a region dismissed by most as a graveyard of cosmic dust and forgotten stars. Lyra, however, found a strange allure in the desolate expanse. She was a commander known for her meticulousness and a healthy dose of skepticism, traits that had served her well in the Krillian Armada. "Commander, we are approaching the designated coordinates," Lieutenant Bram reported, his voice crisp and professional. "Very well, Lieutenant," Lyra responded, her violet eyes narrowing slightly. "Activate the long-range scanners. I want a comprehensive analysis of anything unusual in this sector." The Stardust's sensors hummed to life, bathing the bridge in a soft, blue light. Minutes ticked by, each one stretching into an eternity as the ship diligently scanned the surrounding space. Lyra tapped her fingers impatiently on the armrest of her command chair, her mind already cataloging the potential anomalies they might encounter. Rogue asteroids, gravitational distortions, or perhaps even remnants of ancient, long-dead civilizations. "Commander, I am detecting a cluster of objects approximately 5 light minutes ahead," Bram announced, his voice tinged with a hint of surprise. "They appear to be vessels. Derelict, but structurally intact." Lyra raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Vessels, you say? Run a detailed analysis of their composition and energy signatures. I want to know everything about them." As the Stardust drew closer, the holographic display on the bridge flickered to life, revealing the objects in question. They were ships, or rather, the skeletal remains of ships. Their hulls were scarred and battered, their once gleaming surfaces dulled by the ravages of time and cosmic radiation. They drifted aimlessly in the void, like ghosts of a forgotten war. "The vessels are of unknown origin, Commander," Bram reported, his fingers flying across his console. "Their design doesn't match anything in the Armada's database. Their energy signatures are faint, almost non-existent." Lyra studied the images on the display, her mind racing to make sense of what she was seeing. The ships were unlike anything she had ever encountered. Their architecture was both elegant and functional, with flowing lines and intricate details that suggested a level of sophistication rarely seen in contemporary ship designs. "Increase magnification on one of the vessels," Lyra ordered, pointing to a particularly large ship in the center of the cluster. "I want a closer look at its hull plating." The display zoomed in, revealing the ship's hull in astonishing detail. Lyra leaned forward, her eyes scanning the surface for any clues about its origins. And then she saw it. A symbol, etched into the metal, barely visible beneath layers of grime and cosmic dust. "Lieutenant, enhance that symbol," Lyra commanded, her voice barely a whisper. "I want a full spectral analysis of its composition." Bram nodded, his fingers dancing across his console once more. The symbol shimmered into sharper focus, revealing a stylized depiction of a bird in flight. The computer analyzed its composition, comparing it to the vast database of known symbols and insignias. "Commander," Bram announced, his voice laced with disbelief. "The symbol, it matches the historical records of humanity." Lyra felt a jolt of surprise, almost a physical shock. Humanity. The very name was synonymous with myth and legend in Krillian society. They were the boogeymen of the ancient tales, the savage, warlike race that had vanished from the galaxy centuries ago, leaving behind only whispers and half-forgotten stories. "Impossible," Lyra scoffed, shaking her head. "Humanity is nothing more than a fabrication, a cautionary tale told to frighten children. There's no way these ships could be of human origin." "With all due respect, Commander," Bram countered, "the analysis is conclusive. The symbol matches the historical records with a 99% certainty, and the hull plating. It's composed of materials that were commonly used by humans during their era of space exploration." Lyra fell silent, her mind grappling with the implications of Bram's findings. If these ships were indeed of human origin, it would shatter everything she had ever believed about the galaxy's history. It would mean that humanity was not just a myth, but a real, tangible civilization that had once played a significant role in the galactic tapestry. "Run a full scan of the surrounding area," Lyra ordered, her voice regaining its usual authority. "I want to know if there are any other anomalies in this sector, and alert High Command. Tell them we've discovered something significant." As the Stardust continued its survey, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of uncovering something truly extraordinary. The derelict fleet, the human symbol, the faint energy signatures, it all pointed to a mystery that had been buried for centuries, a mystery that could rewrite the history of the galaxy. The Stardust spent the next several hours meticulously scanning the sector, its sensors probing every nook and cranny of the desolate expanse. And then, they found something else. A small derelict space station, hidden behind a dense asteroid field. "Commander, I'm detecting the structure of artificial origin," Bram announced, his voice filled with excitement. "It's heavily damaged, but it appears to be a space station of some kind. Can you identify its origin?" Lyra asked, her heart pounding with anticipation. "Negative, Commander," Bram replied. "But its design, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost organic in nature." Lyra ordered the Stardust to approach the station, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Could this be another relic of humanity? Or was it something else entirely, something even more ancient and mysterious? As the Stardust drew closer, Lyra could see the station in all its decaying glory. It was a massive structure, shaped like a giant, skeletal ribcage. Its surface was covered in craters and gashes, and its interior was dark and silent. "Send a probe to investigate the station," Lyra ordered. "I want to know what's inside." The probe detached from the Stardust and sped towards the station, its cameras relaying images back to the ship. The interior of the station was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, filled with debris and decay. And then, the probe found something that made Lyra's breath catch in her throat. A chamber containing a series of cryogenic pods. "Commander," Bram announced, his voice trembling with excitement. "The pods, they appear to contain living beings." Lyra stared at the images on the display, her mind reeling. Living beings. After all this time, could it be possible that there were survivors of humanity, still slumbering in those ancient pods? "Activate the life support systems on the probe," Lyra ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to see if we can revive them." The probe activated its life support systems, sending a surge of energy into the cryogenic pods. And then, one by one, the pods began to open. A figure emerged from one of the pods, its eyes blinking in the sudden light. It was humanoid in form, but with subtle differences that set it apart from the Krillians. Its skin was pale, its hair was dark, and its features were human. "Commander," Bram announced, his voice filled with awe. "I believe we've found a survivor." Lyra felt a surge of emotions wash over her: disbelief, excitement, and a profound sense of responsibility. She had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, something that could change the course of galactic history. But she also knew that she was walking on dangerous ground. The discovery of humanity could have far-reaching consequences, and not all of them might be positive. "Prepare a medical team," Lyra ordered, her voice regaining its firmness. "I want that survivor brought aboard the Stardust. And send a message to High Command. Tell them, humanity has awakened." Little did Lyra know that her discovery was just the beginning of a long and perilous journey. She had opened a door to the past, a door that would lead her to question everything she had ever believed about the galaxy and her place in it. And as she prepared to meet the human survivor, she couldn't help but wonder what the future held, and what role she would play in the unfolding drama. Of the observation lounges, overlooking the star-dusted canvas of space, the air hummed heavy with unspoken emotions, the shared experience of piloting the Relentless forging a connection between them that transcended species and rank. "This is different," Ariana said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Your ship, your technology. It's unlike anything I've ever encountered." He took a step closer, closing the distance between them. Ariana's heart pounded in her chest, her carefully constructed barriers crumbling under the intensity of his gaze. "Tell me, Lieutenant," he said, his voice dropping to a husky whisper, "are you curious about humanity?" Before Ariana could respond, a klaxon blared through the ship, shattering the moment. The lights flickered red, and the ship lurched violently. "Report," Sterling barked, his demeanor shifting instantly from relaxed to commanding. "Unidentified vessels approaching, Captain." A voice crackled over the intercom. "Multiple contacts, bearing 2 to 70 Mark 1 to 5. They're fast, sir, very fast." Sterling's eyes narrowed. "Ravagers," he growled. "They must have picked up our trail." He turned to Ariana, his expression grim. "Looks like our combat exercise is about to get a lot more realistic, Lieutenant. Prepare your ship. We're going to need all the firepower we can get." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of activity. Ariana raced back to the Astral Dawn, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The Astral Dawn and the Relentless launched into the void, their weapon systems primed and ready. The approaching vessels materialized on their sensors, a squadron of sleek, black Ravager fighters, their energy signatures crackling with menace. "They're flanking us, Captain," Bram reported from the Astral Dawn's bridge. "They're trying to separate us from the Relentless." "Not if I have anything to say about it." Sterling's voice crackled over the comms. "Hold your position, Lieutenant. I'm going to draw their fire." The Relentless surged forward, its dark hull a stark contrast against the backdrop of stars. The Ravager fighters swarmed around the human warship, unleashing a torrent of energy blasts. But the Relentless was too fast, too agile. It danced through the barrage, its advanced shielding deflecting the incoming fire with ease. "What is he doing?" Ariana muttered, watching in disbelief as the Relentless seemed to deliberately provoke the Ravagers. "He's drawing them in, Lieutenant," Bram said, his voice filled with awe. "He's using himself as bait." And then Ariana understood. Sterling wasn't just trying to protect the Astral Dawn. He was leading the Ravagers into a trap. As the fighters converged on the Relentless, the human warship suddenly unleashed a devastating barrage of energy weapons, cutting through the Ravager squadron like a hot knife through butter. One after another, the fighters exploded, their debris scattering across the void. "Incredible," Ariana breathed. "He took them all down in a single volley." "Don't get too comfortable, Lieutenant." Sterling's voice crackled over the comms. "That was just the appetizer. The main course is on its way." As if on cue, a massive Ravager cruiser materialized on the horizon, its energy signature dwarfing that of the fighters. The cruiser opened fire, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that threatened to overwhelm the Relentless's shields. "We can't take that kind of firepower, Captain," Ariana shouted. "We need to retreat." "Negative, Lieutenant," Sterling replied, his voice calm and resolute. "We stand our ground. We fight." The Relentless charged towards the Ravager cruiser, its weapons blazing. The two ships exchanged fire, the void erupting in a cacophony of energy blasts and explosions. Ariana watched in horror as the Relentless's shields began to buckle under the cruiser's relentless assault. "He's not going to make it," she whispered, her heart sinking. But then, something unexpected happened. The Relentless suddenly executed a daring maneuver, veering sharply to the left and dodging a massive energy blast that would have surely crippled it. The human warship then weaved through the cruiser's defenses, closing the distance between them. "What is he planning?" Ariana wondered, her mind racing. And then she saw it. The Relentless was positioning itself for a close-range attack, aiming directly for the cruiser's bridge. "He's going to try to board them," Bram exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief. "He's insane." The Relentless slammed into the Ravager cruiser, its hull plates grinding against the enemy ship's armor. A boarding party of human soldiers, clad in battle armor and armed with advanced weaponry, poured out of the Relentless and into the cruiser's corridors. "This is it," Ariana muttered. "This is where it all ends." But then, a message crackled over the comms, Sterling's voice filled with triumph. "We're in, Lieutenant. We've taken the bridge. The cruiser is ours." Ariana stared at the display in disbelief. The Relentless had done the impossible. It had taken down a Ravager cruiser, not with superior firepower or advanced technology, but with sheer audacity and human grit. "You did it, Captain," Ariana said, her voice filled with admiration. "You actually did it." "We did it, Lieutenant," Sterling corrected. "Together." The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The Ravager threat was growing, and the galaxy was on the brink of chaos. Ariana knew that she had a choice to make. She could stay with the Astral Dawn, safe and secure within the confines of the Krillian Armada, or she could join Sterling on the Relentless, venturing into the unknown to fight for a cause she was only beginning to understand. As she looked at the image of the Relentless on the display, its dark hull gleaming in the starlight, Ariana knew what she had to do. She had to follow her curiosity, to embrace the unknown, to fight alongside the human who had awakened something within her that she never knew existed. "Bram," she said, her voice filled with determination, "prepare the Astral Dawn for docking with the Relentless. I'm transferring command." "But, Commander," Bram protested, "you can't be serious. You're throwing away your career." "I'm choosing a different path, Bram," Ariana replied, her eyes fixed on the image of the Relentless. "A path that leads to something more important than rank or prestige. A path that leads to the truth." She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the future was uncertain. But with Sterling by her side, Ariana knew that she could face anything. "Prepare for docking, Lieutenant," she repeated, her voice firm and resolute. "We have a war to win." And as the Astral Dawn began its approach to the Relentless, Ariana couldn't help but smile. She was a Selari warrior, a Krillian officer, and now something more. She was an ally of humanity, a seeker of truth, and a woman on the verge of discovering her own destiny. Relentless, its dark hull a stark contrast against the backdrop of stars. The two ships began their journey towards the Nexus sector, a region known for its strategic importance and its high concentration of Ravager activity. Ariana spent her days on the Relentless, working alongside Sterling and his crew to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Ravager fleet. She learned more about human history, about their struggles and their triumphs, about their unwavering commitment to freedom and justice. She also learned more about Sterling himself, about his past, about his motivations, and about the burden he carried on his broad shoulders. "Why do you do it, James?" she asked him one evening as they stood on the bridge of the Relentless, watching the stars drift by. "Why do you keep fighting, even when the odds are stacked against you?" Sterling turned to face her, his steel-gray eyes filled with a weariness that belied his youthful appearance. "Because someone has to," he said, his voice low and resolute. "Because if we don't stand up to the Ravagers, they'll destroy everything we hold dear. They'll extinguish the light of hope in the galaxy." Ariana nodded, understanding dawning in her golden eyes. She had always been a loyal soldier, following orders and upholding the laws of the Krillian Armada. But she had never truly understood what she was fighting for, not until now. Now, she saw the Ravagers for what they were, a force of destruction, a plague upon the galaxy. And she knew that she had to do everything in her power to stop them. As the Relentless and the Astral Dawn approached the Nexus sector, they began to encounter signs of Ravager activity. Derelict ships, abandoned colonies, and scattered debris fields bore testament to the Ravagers' brutal efficiency. Sterling grew increasingly grim, his determination hardening into a steely resolve. "We're getting close," he said, his voice tight with anticipation. "Prepare for battle." I have a feeling we're about to walk into a hornet's nest. And he was right. As the two ships entered the Nexus sector, they were immediately ambushed by a large Ravager fleet. The enemy ships swarmed around them, their energy weapons blazing. The Relentless and the Astral Dawn returned fire, their weapons systems unleashing a torrent of destruction. But the Ravagers were too numerous, too powerful. The two ships were quickly overwhelmed, their shields buckling under the relentless assault. "We can't hold them off, Captain," Bram shouted from the Astral Dawn's bridge. "We need to retreat." "Negative," Sterling replied, his voice calm and resolute. "We stand our ground. We fight." He ordered the Relentless to execute a series of daring maneuvers, weaving through the Ravager fleet and dodging their energy blasts. Ariana watched in awe as the human warship danced through the chaos, its advanced shielding deflecting the incoming fire with ease. But even the Relentless couldn't withstand the Ravager's relentless assault forever. The ship's shields began to fail, and its hull plates started to buckle. "We're taking heavy damage, Captain," a voice crackled over the comms. "We can't keep this up for much longer." Sterling knew that they were on the verge of defeat, but he refused to give up. He had come too far, sacrificed too much, to turn back now. He had to find a way to turn the tide of battle, to give his people a chance to survive. "Ariana," he said, his voice filled with urgency, "I need you to trust me. I have a plan, but it's risky. It could get us all killed." Ariana looked at him, her golden eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. She had come to trust Sterling with her life. She knew that he wouldn't ask her to do anything unless it was absolutely necessary. "I trust you, James," she said, her voice firm and resolute. "Tell me what you need me to do." Sterling explained his plan, his voice low and urgent. It was a desperate gamble, a long shot that could either save them all or destroy them completely. But it was the only chance they had. Ariana nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. She knew that it was crazy, but she also knew that it was their only hope. "All right, Captain," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Let's do it." Sterling gave the order, and the Relentless and the Astral Dawn began to execute his plan. The two ships broke formation, separating from each other and heading in opposite directions. The Ravagers, confused by this sudden change in tactics, hesitated for a moment. And that was all the time Sterling needed. The Relentless surged forward, its engines roaring, and headed straight towards the heart of the Ravager fleet. The Ravagers, realizing what Sterling was doing, turned to intercept him. But it was too late. The Relentless was already upon them, its weapons blazing. The human warship tore through the Ravager fleet like a knife through butter, its energy weapons carving through their armor like tissue paper. The Ravagers, caught off guard, were unable to mount an effective defense. One after another, their ships exploded, their debris scattering across the void. Ariana watched in awe as the Relentless wreaked havoc upon the Ravager fleet. She had never seen anything like it before. Sterling was a force of nature, a one-man army capable of taking on an entire armada. But as the Relentless pushed deeper into the Ravager fleet, it began to take heavy damage. The ship's shields failed completely, and its hull plates were torn apart by enemy fire. Ariana watched in horror as the Relentless began to list, its engines sputtering and failing. "He's not going to make it," she whispered, her heart sinking. But then, something unexpected happened. The Relentless suddenly unleashed a massive burst of energy, a wave of pure destructive force that obliterated everything in its path. The Ravager ships around the Relentless were vaporized, their atoms scattered across the void. Ariana stared in disbelief as the Relentless disappeared from her sensors, its energy signature fading into nothingness. She didn't understand what had happened. Had Sterling destroyed himself and the Ravager fleet in a final act of defiance? Or had he somehow managed to escape, leaving her behind to face the consequences? As the remaining Ravager ships turned their attention towards the Astral Dawn, Ariana knew that she had a choice to make. She could either run, abandoning Sterling and his crew to their fate. Or she could stay and fight, even if it meant certain death. She thought of Sterling, of his courage, his determination, and his unwavering commitment to justice. She knew what he would want her to do. He would want her to fight, to stand up to the Ravagers and protect the innocent. Ariana took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the future was uncertain. But with Sterling's spirit guiding her, she knew that she could face anything. "Bram," she said, her voice filled with determination, "prepare the Astral Dawn for battle. We have a war to win." And as the Astral Dawn charged towards the remaining Ravager ships, Ariana couldn't help but smile. She was a Krillian officer, a Silari warrior, and now something more. She was a champion of humanity, a defender of the innocent, and a woman on a mission to avenge her fallen comrade. The Silari warrior, a Krillian officer, and now something more. She was a champion of humanity, a defender of the innocent, and a woman on a mission to avenge her fallen comrade. The Astral Dawn limped through the debris field, its hull scared and battered, its engines sputtering weakly. Ariana stared at the tactical display, her golden eyes filled with a mixture of grief and determination. Sterling was gone, vanished in a blaze of glory, leaving her to face the Ravagers alone. "Report," she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Engines at 40% capacity, Commander," Bram replied, his voice tight with strain. "Shields offline. Weapons systems compromised." "How many Ravager ships remain?" Ariana asked, dreading the answer. "Too many, Commander," Bram said grimly. "At least a dozen cruisers and countless fighters. They're regrouping, preparing for another attack." Ariana knew that they couldn't possibly survive another assault. The Astral Dawn was crippled, its crew exhausted and demoralized. But she refused to surrender. She would fight to the last breath, to honor Sterling's memory and protect the innocent. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "We're not going down without a fight." The Astral Dawn lurched into motion, dodging and weaving through the debris field, desperately trying to evade the Ravager cruisers. But the enemy ships were too fast, too relentless. They closed in on the Astral Dawn, their energy weapons blazing. "We're taking heavy fire, Commander," Bram shouted. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, casualties mounting." Ariana gritted her teeth, her hands gripping the arms of her command chair. She could feel the ship shuddering around her, the vibrations growing more violent with each passing moment. "Divert all power to the forward shields," she commanded, "and prepare a distress signal. Maybe someone out there can hear us." The distress signal went out, a faint beacon of hope in the vast emptiness of space. But Ariana knew that the chances of being rescued were slim. The Nexus sector was a war zone, a place where hope went to die. As the Ravager ships closed in for the kill, Ariana closed her eyes, bracing herself for the inevitable. But then, something unexpected happened. A series of explosions rocked the Ravager fleet, their ships suddenly erupting in balls of fire. "What's happening?" Ariana exclaimed, her eyes snapping open. "I don't know, Commander," Bram replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "But the Ravagers, they're being attacked by something." Ariana stared at the tactical display, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. A new fleet of ships had entered the battle, their weapons systems tearing through the Ravager fleet with terrifying efficiency. "Identify the vessels," she ordered. "Who are they?" Bram's fingers flew across his console, his eyes widening in amazement. I can't believe it, Commander. It's the Relentless." Ariana's heart leaped in her chest. Sterling. He was alive. But how? She had seen the Relentless destroyed, vaporized in a massive burst of energy. How could it possibly have survived? As the Relentless and its accompanying fleet continued to decimate the Ravager forces, Ariana contacted Sterling, her voice trembling with emotion. "Sterling, is that really you?" How is this possible? Sterling's voice crackled over the comms, his tone warm and reassuring. It's me, Ariana. And don't worry, I'll explain everything later. Right now, we have a war to win. With the Relentless leading the charge, the tide of battle quickly turned against the Ravagers. The enemy ships were no match for the human fleet, their advanced technology and superior tactics proving too much to overcome. One by one, the Ravager ships were destroyed, their debris scattering across the void. As the last Ravager ship limped away, Sterling hailed the astral dawn, his voice filled with relief. Ariana, are you all right? How much damage did you sustain? We're alive, thanks to you, Sterling, Ariana replied, her voice filled with gratitude. But we're in bad shape. We need to dock with the Relentless for repairs. Consider it done, Sterling said. I'll send a docking party over right away. As the Astral Dawn docked with the Relentless, Ariana couldn't help but wonder what had happened to Sterling. How had he survived the explosion? And where had he been all this time? When she finally met Sterling in person, she couldn't believe her eyes. He looked different. His eyes were colder, his expression harder, and his demeanor more distant. Sterling, she said, her voice filled with concern. What happened to you? You've changed. Sterling looked at her, his steel-gray eyes unreadable. I did what I had to do to survive, Ariana, he said, his voice flat and emotionless. And now I have a mission to complete. He explained that he had used a secret teleportation device to escape from the Relentless just before it exploded, transporting himself to a hidden human base located deep within the Nexus sector. There, he had gathered a fleet of human warships, preparing for the final assault against the Ravagers. But why didn't you tell me? Ariana asked, her voice filled with hurt. Why did you leave me to think you were dead? I couldn't risk it, Ariana, Sterling replied. The Ravagers have spies everywhere. I couldn't trust anyone, not even you. Ariana felt a pang of betrayal, a sharp stab of pain in her heart. She had trusted Sterling with her life, had risked everything to fight alongside him. And now he was telling her that he had never trusted her at all. So, what now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What's your mission? To destroy the Ravager homeworld, Sterling replied, his voice filled with grim determination. To wipe them off the face of the galaxy. Ariana stared at him in horror. You can't do that, Sterling, she exclaimed. That would be genocide. You can't just slaughter an entire species. They're monsters, Ariana, Sterling said coldly. They deserve to die. No one deserves to die, Sterling, Ariana retorted. Not even the Ravagers. There has to be another way. There isn't, Sterling said, his voice final. The only way to stop the Ravagers is to eliminate them completely. He turned and walked away, leaving Ariana standing alone in the corridor, her heart filled with despair. She had come so far, had sacrificed so much to fight for a better future. But now she realized that she had been wrong all along. Sterling wasn't a hero. He was a monster, driven by revenge and consumed by hatred. And as she looked out at the stars, Ariana knew that she had a choice to make. She could either stand by and watch as Sterling committed genocide, or she could stand up to him, even if it meant betraying the man she had come to love. The galaxy was on the brink of chaos, and the fate of millions rested in her hands. Ariana knew that she had to make the right decision, even if it was the hardest thing she had ever done.